I'm Jeanine Notter, and this is Chattin with Jeanine. My guest this week is Anothony DeLorenzo, a candidate running for Congress. He's presenting a platform focused on fiscal responsibility, border security, healthcare affordability, education, energy independence, and support for law enforcement, veterans, and American workers. We'll talk with him today about his priorities, why he's entering the race, and how he hopes to approach some of the biggest challenges facing New Hampshire and the country. Anothony, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
May I call you Anothony?
Of course.
Thank you. I heard you speak earlier this week for the first time, and I was very interested in your story, how you started your own business. So before we get to the deep dive questions, could you tell the viewers a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I moved to New Hampshire in 1983 to go to UNH, which I enjoyed, but I was working while I was at school, and after a few years I decided college was not for me. And I dropped out, didn't graduate, and started working full-time. Was able to save up $7,000 and started my business literally in my driveway.
What was your business?
So I was selling vehicles, and I started what they call wholesaling vehicles, which is basically going to new car dealers and buying the vehicles that they didn't want. I'm talking very inexpensive vehicles, $300, $400, $500, $600. I'd bring them back to my house at night, clean them up, and I'd have locations all throughout the seacoast, gas stations, convenience stores, write the price on the window with a pager number, and that was my business. And it was going great until I got a page one day, and it was from the state police, and they told me to knock it off. I didn't know any better whether I could fight them or anything, so I stopped. And I was fortunate to get into a small location in Rochester. The gentleman that owned that store hadn't paid the mortgage in 13 months, so he and I approached the bank, and they agreed to sign the mortgage over to me. I didn't have any money, but I said I'd make the payments, and that's how I got my first small dealership. And fast forward, I mean, it was very difficult, so it's hard to say fast forward, but with the help of some great employees, we grew that business to 30-something operating businesses in 10 different states, creating over 1,000 jobs.
Wow. So
Yeah.
you lived the American dream.
I did. You have to be sort of retrospective, or when you run for Congress, because now you have to tell people about your life. But I credit a lot of my success back to my early years with my grandparents and my parents and my aunts and uncles, all telling me, this is a great country, work hard, referring to America as the land of opportunity, and that really stuck with me. I started working when I was 8 years old.
Oh, wow. What'd you do then?
I delivered the newspaper, the Fairfield Echo.
At age 8?
Age 8, and I have an 8-year-old. So he turned 8 on the 23rd. I look at him, I can't imagine sending him out, deliver the newspaper.
My baby's almost a quarter of a century.
Yeah. Yeah.
Time goes by so fast.
It does, yeah.
So what motivated you to run for Congress at this particular moment?
In the past, I had been in the background. I supported candidates. I supported Caroline Levitt. I supported Governor Sununu, Governor Ayotte, Mayor Rue, Mayor Boards. And this cycle came around, and I didn't see somebody on the Republican side I could get behind that I really thought could win the race. And I felt it was important to win the race for a number of reasons. One, we have a lot of people in Washington that aren't capable, don't have the experience, and are doing it for the wrong reasons. We have people that are professional politicians that care more about having that job than doing the work. And I talk to a lot of people in New Hampshire. There's a lot of people struggling, and I know what it's like to struggle. When I started my business, it was hard. I mean, I remember staying up at night wondering how I was going to make payroll the next day. It's not a good feeling. And I believe that the problems facing our state are fixable problems. I believe everything from housing to wages to energy costs to healthcare, they're fixable problems. And what I bring is somebody, I've been in the business sector for almost 40 years. And in the business sector, we have to solve problems. We can't kick it down the road like Congress does more often than not. If we don't solve issues and improve, we go out of business.
So you feel your background has prepared you for this role?
I do, yes.
Yeah. Let's just go into housing. What what's your solution for that? Because that's a big topic.
Yeah, it is. It is a big topic. I mean, on a high level, the problem of the housing crisis is caused by a lack of supply. There's more demand than supply, and it drives up prices. Yeah. So we need to get supply on. It's largely a state issue, but there are things that the federal government can do. I would love to see a program similar to the SBA program that helps small businesses for housing, to help young people and first-time buyers get into housing. Lower interest rates are warranted. And I think the president's been right about harping on the Fed to lower interest rates. I'd like to see tax credits for developers, some incentive for people to build more houses. So we have to solve this issue, we have to bring more supply into the market.
Mm-hmm. I know I have a question here about energy. I just want to make sure I get all the hot ticket items while we have time. Here it is. Do you support energy independence without subsidies? How do you see that being achieved?
I think the most practical solution to our energy crisis in New Hampshire is a pipeline from Pennsylvania, natural gas. Natural gas is the cleanest burning fossil fuel. I talked to one CEO of an energy company. He referred to Pennsylvania as the Saudi Arabia of natural gas. He says they have more natural gas it could power us for decades. Unfortunately, we have liberal states or governments blocking access to that pipeline, basically New York and Massachusetts. But if we could get a pipeline, and I believe if anybody could get that done, it would be President Trump. But if we could get a pipeline from Pennsylvania to New Hampshire, it would significantly lower New Hampshire costs. I was told last week that Pennsylvania has the lowest natural gas costs, and New Hampshire has some of the highest. And we're literally 2 states away. It's ridiculous. Yeah. And the other thing people don't really recognize, or maybe don't recognize, it's not only the cost to New Hampshire families that these energy costs are crippling, but it's the cost to the economy. If you think about it from the perspective of attracting businesses to New Hampshire, creating jobs, right? If a company had to choose between a state that had very high energy costs and a state that had very low energy costs.
That's what we're hearing all over the state, though, because I'm in the majority office, and we have been talking to businesses all across the state, and there's 2 issues that are number one. It's housing that we just covered, and energy. I have always had natural gas. I grew up in California, earthquake country. Everybody knew how to turn off the gas in the event of an earthquake or some reason. The neighborhood that I live in here in Merrimack has natural gas. Yeah. When the electricity goes out, I can still take a hot shower, and I can use my stove because I have a gas stove. But there's a very loud minority in this town that absolutely hates natural gas. They don't want anything to do with it. They don't want anyone else to get to use it. Natural gas, I agree with you, it is a very reliable source of energy, and in Ohio it's even been called a green energy because it doesn't have as much carbon output as coal. Of course, nuclear has 0 carbon, but I don't know what we could get faster, but we need something. Yeah,
I think nuclear is a solution that we will see. I don't think we'll see it as quick as we need it. I mean,
that's my worry. Like, we need the energy now.
Exactly, we do.
There was one proposal a few terms ago, but it was not a good one for our state, and it was the Kinder Morgan pipeline. It was going to run through the whole state with buildings to push the gas through, so noisy. The farmers were all upset about it, and they wanted to sell it overseas. So they really just wanted to use our state as a highway. I'm like, well, we can't do that. But there was another project that didn't go through that was supposed to just widen the pipeline that we already have. And I don't know what happened with that, but it's always difficult to get these reliable sources of energy, and trying to get the message across that we cannot run this state on solar, wind, and hydro. It's just not good enough. It's intermittent.
True. And I think someday we will be able to run on renewable energy, but it's not now. And it's foolish to think that you can.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, and I didn't mean to use up so much time.
Oh, that's okay.
All right, healthcare. Let's go to healthcare.
Okay.
You've said healthcare needs to be more affordable and accessible. What are the first steps you'd take?
I mean, being a business owner, I remember when they introduced the Affordable Care Act, which is obviously not so affordable.
Yeah, the Unaffordable Care Act.
Yeah. We had to scramble. It was going to impact thousands of people's lives because not only do we have all our employees, but we have their families that rely on us to provide affordable health insurance. And as soon as that program came out, we were aware that it was not affordable. It limited competition, transparency. It subsidized the insurance companies instead of the insured, which is a bizarre way to approach anything. So Obamacare needs to be at best overhauled, and probably more than that. We need to bring back competition. We need transparency. Absolutely. I mean, in my business, auto business, when somebody comes in and needs a price on something, whether it's a car, I mean, the federal government requires me to put the price of a new vehicle on the windshield. I walk into Portsmouth Hospital, I ask them how much my MRI is, and they say to me, I have to ask your insurance company. And we allow that, I swear. Yeah. That's what they said to me. Wow. And then you know what they charged me? $6,000. Wow. I went to my friend's place 2 years later for MRI. I got one for under $800.
Wow, $6,000 to $800.
$6,000
wow.
to $800. Yeah,
so customer service goes up when there's competition.
That's the nature of capitalism. Is it rewards people that provide good products and services.
The veterans issues are very near and dear to my heart. My husband's a veteran. I come from a long line of Marines. My sons are in the Air Force.
I heard, yeah, that's great.
So you highlight concerns about China regarding currency, technology, and land purchases. I don't know why I have this question under the military, but that's where I put it. What policies do you believe would effectively address those issues?
There's a number of issues with China, one of which is we gave away our manufacturing to China 20, 25 years ago, and that seriously impacted our economy. And it's made them stronger, and with a stronger economy, it translates also into a stronger military. That was a mistake, and now we're fighting, President Trump is fighting to get manufacturing back into this country.
Some have come back. I'm a average scrapbooker. I can't call myself a good one, but I scrapbook. And I buy from Creative Memories. And I remember when they started having them made overseas, and I complained about it. They said, well, we'd have to charge you more. We can offer a cheaper or a less expensive product if we have it made overseas. I didn't like that, but now they're made in USA. That's great. They're
and we need more of that. So specifically when it comes to, I mean, I think Iran's a great example of that the new nuclear weapon is economics. I mean, right now, the president has a blockade on Iran that is, from what I hear, causing great economic pressure to them, and that is a significant way to bring change. And so we need to put the same type of pressure on all of our adversaries. You look at China in their manufacturing; they are the largest polluter in the world. Why do we, and their child labor laws are awful, so why do we buy so much? If we're against, if we support human rights and we're for the economy or the climate, right, against polluting, why are we buying so much? Why are we empowering them?
Right.
It's ridiculous.
In China, they're putting up, the last I read, it was like 2 coal plants a week to keep up with the demand for the green energy components that they want in America. So it's like, do people realize we have the same sky? It's all connected.
I get it. But so they're using that now, that competitive advantage in manufacturing they're using that against us militarily, whether it's buying up land next to military bases or increasing their military capabilities. So the economics we've allowed them to take from us has increase their ability to be a stronger adversary.
Let's see. Education and workforce. You support expanding vocational training and STEM education. I think you talked about this the other night. How would you work with states and local districts to advance that goal?
I think you need to look at the system as a whole. We have declining student enrollment. So we need to determine where we need schools, which ones are now viable and which ones aren't. I support school choice for the same reasons we talked about why capitalism works. I think if you're giving parents and students a choice on which school to go to, it's going to promote a better product. And I mean, I know where I live, like Little Harbor School is a highly regarded school. People want their kids to go to that school for one reason. It provides a better product. So I think that's very important in the education system. And I think we need to do the same thing in the trades. There's a lot of people talking about the trades now. College has gotten extremely expensive. I mean, my sister-in-law is a doctor. I think she was in her 50s when she paid off her student loans. Right? It's just getting so expensive. And the trades, I mean, I have mechanics that make six figures, fixing cars, painting cars, working on automobiles. You can do that in numerous trades. And it's not it's an ongoing education, but it's not 4 years and $100-something thousand at a traditional university. So I think we need to promote trades in all different areas, part of the high school educational system, and we need to look at the infrastructure of schools from a pragmatic business type of perspective. Like you wouldn't build, whether it's convenience stores or gas stations or whatever, just arbitrarily. You would build them where the demand was, right?
Right. So again, customer service goes up when there's competition.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's the type of approach I think we should take.
Let's talk a little bit about digital assets and innovation. You talk about bringing clarity to digital asset markets. What does common sense regulation look like to you in this space?
I was involved in digital assets a while back, and one of the biggest issues they faced is lack of clarity. There was really no guardrails from the federal government on what you could do and what you couldn't do. And what that did is it kept large banks and investment firms out of that investment class because of the lack of clarity. So bringing in legislation that defines the rules is very important to attract investment into that market. So I would support that. I would also strongly support keeping the government out of regulating it from the crypto works best as a free market. Just let it, and so I would not want to see the federal government putting their hands in it.
And messing it up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. As that happens. I've been to the southern border 3 times, and I saw that when it was wide open, and I've never been to the northern border. So you call for securing both the southern and northern borders. What specific changes or investments do you believe are needed?
Well, as you know, President Trump is forced with fixing the problems caused by the last administration. They estimate somewhere around 15 million people came in here.
It was 12,000. Now I'm losing 12,000 a month on its. There was one day when there was 27,000 that crossed the border. 33,000 a month. I've got all these numbers up.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how we could know but it's millions of people.
Well, I talked to the group that I was with. We talked to the Border Patrol. We talked to the sheriffs, and we got these numbers that are all jumbled up in my head right now. But I've said them before on other shows, and it's a huge number. And I believe it's 33,000 a month for 4 years.
Yeah. So I remember distinctly President Biden getting on TV saying he couldn't fix the problem, he couldn't get the funding or whatever. Do you remember he came on TV and
said,
he lied to the American people?
Put in a bill. I'm like,
right.
No,
and then within 30 days, President Trump closes the border, which I think is I believe in secure borders. To have a society, you need secure borders.
Yeah, try crossing the border in any other country in the world, and what happens?
Google what the punishment is for it. I mean, there's some severe punishments for breaking that law. Now, as far as immigration, I think we need to enforce our laws, and we need to do it in a professional and humanely manner, which I believe is what immigration enforcement does for the majority of cases. I think, unfortunately, you see the cases where they don't do that get sensationalized on TV. But, I mean, have you ever seen an orderly deportation on TV? No. Why would they show that? I mean, that's the norm. But unfortunately, that really doesn't sell. So what you see on TV is the more sensationalized actions. And I'm not condoning those. That's not what I'm trying to say. I'm just saying I think public perception is sort of slanted in that way in some cases because that's what they're exposed to all the time. But regardless, we need to enforce our laws, and we need to do it in a professional, just like any law enforcement, in a professional, humanely manner, right?
I agree. What does common sense immigration reform mean in practical terms from your perspective?
If you research our immigration, not our policy, but the way we oversee immigration, it does not function very well. So I support, my great-grandparents came to this country legally through Ellis Island, settled in Harlem, and I support immigration. I think we are a country of immigrants for the most part, and I support legal immigration. I would like to see it streamlined. I'd like to see we identify the people that we want in this country, and we should welcome them in. And whether it's 1 million people or 500,000, whatever the number is, and we should make that process as easy as possible for the people that are applying the right way and going through the system. But that's not the case. Right now, immigration is run like a lot of government agencies. It's bureaucratic and doesn't deliver results. So, but I would like to attract the brightest, smartest people in the world to come to our country and make our country a better place.
And want to be Americans.
That's a good point.
I would like for them. So we have about 5 minutes. We've got through a lot of topics running through this. So I got maybe one or two more questions, and then I'll let you speak to the viewers. How about public safety and community issues? You say you fully support law enforcement and first responders. What does that support look like in policy form? Well, I mean, I have a personal story that I'm not going to get into, but I will tell you that first responders saved my son's life. And so when anybody says defund the police or talks that nonsense, I pray that they don't need a first responder like I did. So I support them in they should be able to make a good wage. They should be respected by their community. They should have the training that they need to be successful. There should be legislation that supports their efforts in enforcing the laws and protecting our communities. And when we tell the law enforcement to enforce the law, and then some people tell them, yeah, but you can't. You can't be rough. You can't hurt their arm. You can't. So if they're going to enforce the law, we have to let them do their job.
Yeah, and that comes. But what you're talking about comes from training. I think we have a great law enforcement in New Hampshire, and if there's anything I would say that they could improve upon is make sure that they have all the training that they need to do the job that they're tasked with doing. And that's not always the case. Municipalities squeeze police and fire budgets. I took some training at SIG for firearms, and one of the teachers said to me, he said, you guys have now received more education than is required by your local police, which I would like to see them have that, as much education as possible.
You have a website?
Yes, DiLorenzoForCongress.com.
So your name should be up on the screen. So DiLorenzo for Congress, is it the number 4 or FOR? Okay, yep. So that's
I know, I heard
that. Confused.
Yes.
It's confusing, yeah. DiLorenzo for Congress. Because I know that there's many other issues, and if somebody wants to get in touch with you or they have more questions, they can Like we didn't cover elections and governance, we didn't cover opioids, and there's a few other items here. But in the last 2 minutes of the show, I would like to give you the opportunity to talk straight to the viewers.
Thank you. I would say two things. First of all, my resume, what I've been able to accomplish over the last 40 years in the private sector, speaks for itself. It's basically hard work. It's common sense, pragmatism. It's the ability to work with others to accomplish goals. And I put my resume up against any candidate in this race on either side. The second thing that I would like to tell the audience is I'm doing this for the right reasons. It's because I love our country, I love our state, I care about the people that live here, and it's not because I need a job or I want to go to Washington 3 or 4 days a week. It's because not only do I care, but I'm confident I can make a difference. I've been doing it in the private sector for the last 35 plus years, and I will do it when I go to Washington. And I will work with anybody in DC, regardless of political affiliation, to pass legislation that benefits the people of New Hampshire.
Thank you, Anthony.
All right, thank you.
It was nice chatting with you, and thank you for watching.